A game about shadows was shadow dropped at the Game Awards. Neat. I know I normally start these reviews by going into a development or backstory for a game, but Shady Part of Me was announced and released at the Game Awards 2020, as one of the very few highlights of the entire event. So there isn't much of a background to go into, so let's dive on in. Though I do want to mention that developers did give me a review copy for the Steam version, so thank you for that. Shady Part of Me places you in control of a little girl and her shadow, where you need to manipulate objects in order to help the other so they can both get to a circle at the end of a section to move on to the next one, while escaping from their own psyche. The plot is very ambiguous with what's going on, so I'll leave it at that. You manipulate objects like boxes, switches, and biggest of all, light and shadow, which is important because the girl can't go into light at all, or the shadow can only move in said light. So you need to have the two cooperate in the puzzles in various chapters in order to proceed. If you die or need to redo something, you can rewind time in order to correct yourself. But there are these birds you can find in each puzzle for going a step above that will fill out these puzzles when you get them all. The game looks great. It's a very minimalist style, but I love the almost watercolor-like appearance to everything, and how you can see the line art of objects before they get colored in the next section. And all the shadows are sharp and crisp, so there's no confusion on what's interactable. I love the idea that the entire shadow world is 2D while the real world is 3D. And they find clever ways of incorporating the two without feeling distracting. And that's just talking about the looks. The soundtrack is great stuff. It goes beyond just being background thinking music and has some great tunes, and you get two variations for both characters that change when you switch between them. I am patiently waiting for this soundtrack to become available so I can listen to it more. So for my feelings about the game and how it plays, well, what you see is what you get, for better or worse. There's nothing inherently wrong with the game. The puzzles were fun and they had some cool uses of shadow that lead to creative moments. And besides the end of the game, I didn't spend too much time on one puzzle for too long, so the pace keeps a good flow. I only say it becomes a problem at the end because it has more out-of-the-box kind of stuff that isn't explained very great, and makes the end a bit more frustrating as a whole. But the biggest thing I have with Shady Part of Me is, you've played a game like this before. I couldn't help but get similar vibes to a lot of other puzzle platformers that have done basically the same thing, and Shady Part of Me doesn't really have a big hook to make it stand out. The whole shadow concept, I couldn't help but think of Contrast, an early PS4 title with a pretty similar gimmick. The game doesn't really have that much to make it easy to recommend to friends. That's not saying that the game is bad. What it does well, and it has some cool gimmicks to justify the concept. And I did beat the game all in one sitting, so I know I was having fun during that time. But if you're used to these puzzle platformers, you get what you expect and not much else to give it that extra push. If you are interested, you got a good game. But if you're not, you're probably not going to be convinced otherwise. I do think it's worth the $15, but I also say you're fine waiting for a sale too. This is a weird one for me to talk about. Did you like what you saw throughout the video? Then you'll probably like the game. That's the best way I can put it for ya.